Thank you for joining us for the Black Men Healing podcast. My name is Tressica Hamilton. I'm the founder of blackmenhealing.com and the Black Men Healing podcast. And today our featured guest is Greg Dawson II. And Greg is a licensed sex therapist. And also he specializes in Tantra energy work. And we'll discuss more of that during this episode. And the topic for today's episode is Black men and sex. And we'll talk about sexual wellness for Black men, as well as other questions you may have for a sex therapist. And I also want to introduce Greg, and thank you, Greg, for joining us today. And Greg Dawson II, he is a licensed clinical social worker. He's been a sex therapist for over 15 years. He's licensed in Florida and Texas. He also does tantra work, which is energy work outside of his clinical work and services. And we'll talk more about that as well. A lot of men express surprise that we have a Black male sex therapist. And so that's something that's important for you to know, that there are different forms of therapy. And so Greg will share more about what sex therapy is and what it's like to work with a sex therapist, as well as answering questions that a lot of Black men have about Black men and sex, as well as how to impact the mental health of Black men. And so, Greg, thank you for joining us today. And I just, I would like for you to give us more information about how is it to work with a sex therapist? What's it like working with you, and what should men expect working with you as their sex therapist?
Thank you for that question. And believe it or not, that is the number one question I get. It's what in the world is a sex therapist, and what do you do? And and a lot of times people are thinking I'm in here just ripping clothes off and I'm filming me having sex with clients and stuff like that. And people are afraid. I'm just like, hold on. There's no reason to be afraid here. It is an opportunity for men and women and anybody who identifies and however they identify for self-discovery. It's an opportunity for them to grow in so many other ways, emotionally, physically. But as you started to talk about with Tantra, and I have a Christian background. And so with that, leaning towards other belief systems, Tantra has helped me understand how sex is very important spiritually. It doesn't forget that. It doesn't give that away. It doesn't shun that. It doesn't close that off. And it's a beautiful thing. And so when we're talking about our bodies and our consciousness developing, we have to understand sex is every part of that. And so I don't mix Tantra with sex therapy. You have to do one or the other. However, um, sex is very much part of Tantra, and sex therapy is more clinical. And so when we're talking about, you coming in to see me, whether you're a man or a woman, um, we start off by doing a number of assessments. And just simply put, looking at, your levels of stress, how you're able to explore emotions and cope, your self-awareness. Are you able to regulate your mood? And a lot of us can't, right? Naturally, a lot of us have to learn how to regulate our moods, but a lot of us don't know that our mood can affect our sex. There's a number of us that can't have good quality sex when we're pissed. And that's naturally so, right? Our libido may drop because of the stress. Our libido is going to be affected when we're upset. Some of us may say, well, I have better sex when I'm mad. Well, congratulations. But do you want to continue to be mad to have good sex is the better question, right? And so we want to get to the point where we're in our bodies, and this is kind of a tantra thing, and we want to try to assume feelings of being in a blissful state, right? We want to assume feelings of being at peace. And so peace is right here, right? And so we want to bring our consciousness from right here, the frustration, the social constructs, the structures that we're taught that as a man we need to control sex, or we need to control the woman in heteronormal spaces to have good sex. And we have to beat it out of the frame and have rough sex to have good sex, right? All that's taught. Nowhere in our bodies has that said that to ourselves, that, oh, I need to have sex like this to have good sex with our partner. A lot of it's learned. And so in these spaces, as a sex therapist, you'll unlearn all the social constructs. You'll learn how to have better sex based on what your quality of sex is, based on your personal sexual contract. You'll have an opportunity to learn about the other person's sexual contract and how you bring that together in a complementary sex style, which means this is my sex and I'm okay with that, and better than okay with that. That's your sex, you're okay with that, and together we're going to have great sex as a team and so
Great.
much more.
I like how you touched upon personal sexual styles as well. And also because a lot of Black men have societal expectations placed on them as far as,
Yes,
like you said, how they interact with women in hetero, relationships and what's expected of them. And
yes,
I think that's one of the bigger issues too, as far as the communication issues with sex and the expectations that are not even laid out beforehand. And so I like that you touched on having a personal sexual contract so that
yes.
each person is mutually satisfied, during that interaction. And for Black men to feel comfortable in their own skin, during those encounters and not being, their mental health being affected by what's expected of them or that masculinity role that impacts them when it comes to sex and how they should interact.
And I want to talk about that a little bit too. I don't know if you're leading into the sex question, the second question.
Okay.
Uh, but masculinity is a healthy thing. In today's society, you may just click on any of your social media accounts, and instantly we're talking about toxic masculinity.
Yes.
Well, in life, there's balance. And of course, there's toxic spaces, but there's spaces where there's not. And there's a lot of healthy masculinity when we're just talking about men, right? And
Yeah.
which I also didn't mention is I'm in these spaces because I wanted to help Black men, and I'm a
Great.
Black man. And so I want to help myself before I start helping others, right?
Yeah.
But, in the space, in this body, as a Black man, I've had a number of healthy masculine role models, whether they were Black or not. And there's a lot of Black men that don't. And there's a lot of Black men that may not understand where the healthy masculinity is because of the
Yeah.
social constructs.
Yeah.
But um, whether we exude it or not, every Black man has healthy masculinity within him. We just have to let that out, right? And
Yeah.
that's literally projecting healthy energy, right? And
Yes.
so once we find those spaces, which is absolutely here, fellas, and other spaces that I can recommend you to, uh, I welcome you in by saying you're not perfect, because I'm neither am I, but also helping you understand that this is the way for masculinity, healthy masculinity, and we need each other for that to happen. If we depend on others outside of, you know, identifying men for healthy masculinity, we're going to be taught certain things that don't necessarily fit with us. It may fit for a second, but I'm talking about long term and a lasting change when we're talking about healthy masculinity. And so, what do those spaces look like? If you don't know, definitely look me up. I can definitely recommend you to other men. But healthy masculinity is absolutely, and this is a tantra space, a tantra word, right? It's the projection of healthy energy outwardly, right? And as we're
Yes.
taught as men, we have to control everything. That's not healthy masculinity. We don't need to control everything. And once we understand that we uh, don't have control over everything, and the less we do, when we just put the brakes and just let things be, and we work on ourselves, then we understand how strong we actually are. It's not within the control design. That doesn't measure our strength. Our strength is measured in just letting it go and enjoying life and letting it be.
That's true. And I want to touch more on the tantra as well, as far as the energy. When you mention energy and the healthiness of it, because even with just in the Black community, period, when we talk about the traditional male and female relationships, about how the female is the receiver, but
Yes,
even just with energy, that goes both ways.
absolutely.
Can you talk more about that as far as even just choosing the right partners and how their energy flows in the sexual relationship.
Yeah. So, when it comes to choosing the right partners, that's just something we have to continue to put ourselves out there and see, whether we like to believe that or not. A lot of us may believe, if I sit in my house and I pray, the partner will knock on our front door. That is a possibility. But we have to also look at how realistic and, what are the numbers with it? What are the odds of that? The odds are that's not going to happen for a lot of
Yeah.
us. But you're right, that can happen because God is real, God consciousness is real, and that can be brought to us. But you're going to have to put some umph into that, little elbow grease. So when we're talking about the spaces of energy work and even therapy, when people come to see me, I'm seeing people that are vibrating low. I'm seeing people that are not self-aware, and a lot of it comes from a lack of understanding rules, roles, structure, and function. When we can get to an understanding of knowing what the rules are and our roles are, understanding our structure and our functioning in a relationship, in our own home, we've built a solid foundation. And now we can go out there and start practicing understanding how we can fit within a relational design. And so, just simply put, as stated, masculine energy, healthy masculine energy is healthy energy going outward. And feminine energy is receiving healthy energy. And that's something that men, penis owners, women, vulva owners, we 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 have that. We own that. But the realistic part of it that is we live in a world that operates out of scarcity,
Yeah.
right? We don't feel like we have enough of love. We don't feel like we operate out of lack, and we operate out of just functioning off of fear, that we don't allow ourselves to receive the healthy energy or even give it. There's been, I've had plenty of dates where the person didn't like healthy affection, didn't like healthy kisses in the morning, healthy hugs for 30 seconds, releasing the oxytocin, walking hands in the park, right? That was
Yeah.
so foreign to them. They didn't understand what healthy touch was. And of course, that relationship that won't survive. And
Yeah.
so they weren't able to receive healthy energy. And of course, human beings and men absolutely give out, unhealthy energy. And that would be the masculine part of it. And so, once we understand how our structure, our design, and how we fit in this world, we can then understand what healthy masculine and feminine energy is, and allow ourselves to successfully exist within this natural design that we were born with.
Thank you. Thank you for
I don't know if I
sharing.
answered your question. I could be a chatty bratty from time to
You
time.
did. I appreciate
Okay.
that, especially when you just talking about energy and the healthy masculine energy.
Yeah.
Um, because I have a lot of questions, especially with Black men healing. A lot of people like the fact that the men are working on their healing and they're interested in them, but they need to realize they need to do their own healing as well.
Yeah.
And the men need to be careful about once they do their healing, making sure they interact with somebody who's also worked on themselves as well. And like I
Yes.
said, as far as vibration, making sure there's a energy match so that it's a healthy relationship. Because, like you said, with somebody who's not, if they're not comfortable being held or having affection, it won't work. And so it needs to be a energy match, vibrational wise.
Absolutely.
So thank you for sharing that. Also, you touched on it earlier. That's something I wanted to discuss too. That's some of the questions the men had as far as you say you're from a Christian background. And I see a lot of men, the questions are about being Christian, even just religion, because even in the Black community, we have that strong religion base and spiritual base. So just the Black community, period. But I see a lot of, I guess, guilt around expecting certain sexual positions or certain, like in certain type
Yep.
of sex or king, and having that guilt around that
Yep.
because of the religion impact on them. And so can you talk more about that? I mean, just even not, having a healthy sex life without that guilt, being a Christian or having been a part of organized religion and being able to have sexual freedom.
Absolutely. The Bible is it's a beautiful book. It is a historical uh it's a compilation of historical stories, right? That helps us create a timeline for our existence before, during, and after, right? Whether it's accurate or not, I'm not here to discuss that. But um, looking at it, the Bible absolutely has all kinds of sex in it, kinky or not, right? Excuse me, whether we're married or not, sex is absolutely in the Bible. So if you're Christian, it's okay to talk about it. You're going to have to. A lot of times people will say, I can't talk about this. I'm not married, or we're in the church. Well, the Bible's in the church, and sex is all in the Bible. So we're gonna have to either burn those pages or rip them out. Like, what are we doing? So, but when it comes to Christianity, um, it absolutely does have a purity base to it, which can be confusing, right? So if we're all sinners, then that means we can't all be pure either, right? So where do we fit? And that again is kind of like, how do we fit in this structure and this functional design? We just don't know. So I don't believe I can answer all of your questions about Christianity. Please refer to get to a trusted religious guide or anything of that nature. However, if you're Christian, absolutely you can have kinky sex. You can have sex that is a fetish, right? You can have all these things, but it's usually you have to lean into marriage in a lot of spaces for that to happen. Um, and the Bible will, lean into you can only have abstinence before marriage. And so, how does that look? Uh, Funny thing is, if you are, if you believe in the tantra spaces, you don't have to touch anybody, and you can still have orgasms, right? There's
Yeah.
absolutely touchless orgasms, so you can still be Christian and practice tantra, which people may not understand that, may not believe that, but orgasms is the spice of life. And there's a number of things that can happen with you energetically that'll help you have orgasms. It's not just the screams of pleasure, it's not just, cries of joy. Um, it could be the hair standing up on your skin, absolutely crying. It could be an understanding of gratitude. Orgasms happen in so many ways, but at the root of it all, feelings of bliss, uh, being grateful for these things. I don't know. There's a lot of people that can eat chocolate cake and have an orgasm because they're so grateful of how that cake tastes. And they're
Yeah.
going into the, oh my God. Yes. What you put in this cake, that's you're going into orgasm, right? And that's not the screams of joy, but you're grateful for the way it tastes. And you understand that this puts you in a place of peace, bliss, so many other things. And so there's levels to orgasms, including the screaming orgasms, which you can have from a from a tantra provider, touchless orgasms as well. So I have to also admit, though, Christians, and I mean devout Christians that are not married, have been my toughest case because there's not a lot that they would like to work on until they understand that you are a sinner, anyway, and, we might as well learn about the sex now. So when you get married, if that's your belief, or whatever you're practicing now, let's practice this as safe as possible, and looking at pleasure. Um, we can do a lot of things. But that has been particularly my toughest cases when we're talking about Christians that take a lot of sex and sex education off of the table. When you do that, there's not a lot for me to really work with, but we still do the best we can, and we work with your strengths, and we work on your goals. And again, we still help you identify yourself as a sexual healthy person, and we help you identify what your other partner is dealing with and how y'all can come together in complementary sex styles. And sex isn't always just penetration. It is dating. It is acts of love. It is telling him or her I love you. It is the affection. That's all sex because there's all kinds of things going on within your body when you do that. That's opening you up and preparing you for it anyway. Let's lean on that. Let's lean in on that and enjoy it.
Man, thank you for sharing it. Thank you also for just sharing that the different forms of sex. because people need to realize it's not just penetration, like you mentioned.
Absolutely.
And also, it's interesting that you said that the singles are your toughest cases because that is the best time to even prepare to have a healthy sex life.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to know as well. And I think so many Christians may have just have the hangups that they need to resolve. And I think, like I said, that's why it's so tough. And I think another question I had too from the men is it goes back to communication as well, as far as um, being able to express your desires, what you would like, and then if they're have a hang up about even expressing that, they might not
Mhm.
realize that the woman or their partner, whoever their partner is, may be interested in it as well. They may feel like they're afraid to even say what they really want.
Yeah.
Within having a healthy sex relationship. And so, can you touch more on a healthy communication to have a healthy, sex life, being able to express what your needs are, and if your needs are not being met, how to communicate that.
Yeah. A lot of that comes with confidence and understanding of your vibrational energy. Um, Case in point, if you're vibrating low, you maybe lack of focus, maybe not be able to get an erection, maybe not be able to maintain it, maybe not be able to finish it, maybe all three and then some. For women, it may not, you may not, the vagina will open up and get ready for impact, right?
Yeah.
With consent. I know impact may sound weird, but for insertion rather. And so that process may not happen for you if you're not able to express and receive what you're wanting as a woman. But particularly as a man, a lot of times we're tasked with initiating. We have to initiate. But also, there are a lot of us that like our partners to initiate. We just want to be on the receiving end and take it, whatever it is. And I'm saying that with the assumption that we know what we want, but a lot of times we don't. So you have to understand, where are you vibrating? How are you vibrating? Are you at a point where you're able to express yourself and have fun? Do you feel safe with communication? Do you understand what your partner wants? Do you understand what he or she has going on? And there's a healthy back and forth dialogue, right? Because sometimes they can cut you off from expressing yourself. So not only do you have to understand you have to understand your partner in an effort to express whatever you're needing. And then, now we have to understand, are we vanilla? Do we like, is our sex kind of predictive, and sometimes is it one position, maybe two? Is it something that doesn't have necessarily a lot of kink or fetish in it, right? I think we all are vanilla at certain points of our life or within certain sex sessions. And then sometimes people go beyond that. But that doesn't mean that their sex is better than somebody who is 100% vanilla. They're just different. And so how do you understand how to express? Well, you have to understand your sex style. You have to understand where you're vibrating. And when it comes to your partner, you have to understand, well, what do I want? Do I understand these hot zones? Right? Right?
Yeah.
Do I understand where I like to be touched? If you don't understand that, how are you going to communicate that? So there has to be a higher level of self-discovery, understanding, and there has to be a level where you're going to communicate what you want to communicate with your partner so we can get to wherever spaces we want to, whether we're vanilla or whether we like some kind of kink, whether we like some kind of fetish.
Okay.
It's all about self discovery and understanding of self. If you don't know who you are, if you're afraid to be who you are, then absolutely you're going to have all kinds of issues communicating.
That's true. And even when you said where the man is expected to initiate,
Mm,
and some men may be hesitant about that because of certain things that have happened, like the Me Too movement, or feeling like they maybe feel pressuring their partner.
yeah,
And it's like I said, they need to have that self-discovery and also make sure they have a healthy communication, even communicating before the sex act, like you said, during dating or getting to know each other,
yeah.
to manage those expectations.
I I know a lot of people will have a tough time, even if they have self discovery and self and understanding of self. Their awareness is high.
Yeah.
A lot of times, it can be a challenge to communicate with their partner because they don't understand what their partner wants. And you
Hmm.
just have to simply just use the ask model. Just simply ask them, well, what do you want and need? And I know that's a basic question that therapists, will ask whether they're trained as a sex therapist or not, in sessions to help you get to that point. But that's important. Understanding what your partner wants and needs so you can see how you fit within that design of that sexual relationship.
That's
Not all of us like to be talked to, respectfully in bed. Sometimes we appreciate some disrespectful conversation. And we have to understand that, we can't yuck each other's yum. If I want you to talk nasty to me or to talk bad to me and that raises me, let's get it.
true.
And let's appreciate it. And let's go.
And like I said, that's where the confidence comes in, at being confident, and also having that trust where you can, express your needs, and when you ask that question about what do you want or need, you're able to answer honestly without feeling
Absolutely.
ashamed of what you want to need.
Absolutely.
So thank you for sharing that. And also, I like how you keep emphasizing the importance of knowing, being self-aware, and knowing that you need to have a high vibration, understanding your vibration. And also, even when you said men need to know where they want to be touched at. A lot of times the focus is on their partner, but they need to understand that they want pleasure as well.
Yep.
So thank you for even saying that, for them to understand what their needs and wants are, and also where they would like to be touched and what's pleasure for them.
Yep. And to help people with self awareness, I do this a lot with my clients. And if you've seen me in other podcasts, probably heard this. I'm going to say it again. Do a sex history. Get yourself a sheet of paper, turn it horizontally, all right? Draw a line right here in the middle,
Okay.
and start from your earliest memory of sex. And anything above the line, good experiences, or great, or excellent. Anything right there on the line, they were okay. Anything below it were the experiences you didn't appreciate that. And just allow the line to flow, the experiences to flow. Put a date on it, label that. Oh, this is when I had the best orgasm, or this is when I had the best kind of sex, or this is when I made her scream in orgasm. And this is when I just had terrible experiences. You're going to learn how you developed over time. And if you're having the same kind of sex over time, I don't want to yuck you young, but maybe you haven't taken the time to notice how you've developed in your body. Our
Okay.
bodies are going to change. Our consciousness is going to develop and change over time. So is our sex. And so if we don't roll with those punches, if we don't make the adjustments, we're just not simply going to be aligned with our energy, with our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And so you're just gonna be thrown off and not in alignment. So particularly using that sex history, um, you could just, if you're single, of course, that's something to have a conversation and self-talk with. If you have a partner or partners, not knocking anybody's relational structure, discuss that with them, and that'll be a fun conversation to have. And if it's not fun, try to put fun into your sex life, because this isn't work. You're not taking your suitcase to work for
True.
this. And we're talking about your personal sex, right? And so if you don't add the element of fun, are you really enjoying it? So, that's something I always work with my clients on, is adding the element of fun. And so
Great.
should you.
I like that. I like how you said it, because that involves self-reflection, and also gives them a responsibility for their own healthy sex life and for their own pleasure. So I like that you mentioned doing a sex history. And
Yes.
even maybe when you said that too, it makes me think about the men who are, as you age, like you say, you change over time. And so I think, wouldn't that be good for the men who, as they're aging, going into their, 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, and older, and they still, want a healthy sex life, and they see how they've evolved over time, and their needs may change as
Yes.
they age. So I like
Absolutely.
that because I've heard I had questions from men, as they age, the changes that they're dealing with, and still want to have a healthy sex life.
Yeah, and that's just going to simply change. As we age, our bodies are going to change. We can't have sex like we did when we were as an adult, an early adult, whether it be with you were 18 or 21 or whatever when you started having sex. We're just not going to be able to respectfully have the rough sex like we were when we first were having sex early on, when we were trying to learn how to please a woman and
Yeah,
she was screaming, "Oh, we had a great experience." No, based upon your penis size, it probably hurt. Or probably she was trying to just yell to, make you feel better about yourself. We don't know. But whatever the reason is or whatever the sex history was, it's no longer there. Even if you had the same partner, your body has changed, and so you're going to have to make the adjustment. And better sex over time may be having more of an emotional connection, more so than a physical connection. Because as we're early, we just depend so much on the physical.
yeah,
But as we get older, if we're in tune with uh, our well-being, and as we get older we're going to have more of an emotional connection, a lot of us, with our partner and sex. And so lean into that. You can have more of an emotional connection and still a physical one, and that looks different for all of us. It may be, you need more cuddle time before and after sex, right? And after sex would be after play, and that's extremely important for sex to keep that energy, that sex energy up, is to hold your partner after sex or to talk about what you want to do to your partner the next time. Keeping that energy, that sex energy high, is going to help you with your mood. It's going to help you focus. It's going to help you with anticipation, which will lead you back into another sex session, and hopefully it's just as good, if not better, than the previous one.
yes. Thank you for sharing that. Like you said, because as you mature, and like you said, the emotional connection becomes more important. And so I think a lot of men need to realize that it's okay for that to change, and it looks different as they grow older, and they can still have even more pleasure as they grow older because the expectations are different, and they appreciate it more if they have that
Absolutely.
connection. And you also mentioned the relational structures as far as partners, um, because it may look different for different men in their relationships as far as whether they have multiple partners or just monogamy. But can you speak more about that and relational structures, and so the men can be honest about what they really want and how to communicate that as well with the relational
Absolutely.
structure?
I am a person that identifies as poly, right? Not only identify, I feel like that is the healthiest way for, that's just my personal, and that's okay, but I'm just going to let y'all know that. So I believe everybody is poly, actually. Um, so, but I do believe monogamy is healthy as well, right? It's one of those structures that may not be identified uh, as successful or longest running as long as the history of polyamory, more specifically, has, or polygamy. But it's absolutely successful in a lot of spaces.
Okay.
uh, the issue is people don't know the rules and roles in their relationships and what they want, right? We just
Okay.
jump into a relationship, we don't discuss the rules and roles, and then our feelings are hurt. They're violated. And it may not necessarily be cheating with another partner. It may be financial issues. It may be you didn't open the door for me and treat me like a human being, like this way or that way. And so when you don't discuss the rules and roles, you're feeling violated in your monogamous or even poly structure, right? And so we have to understand our rules and roles in our relational design. Um, so that's that for just for the beginners, but just to begin the conversation. But when it comes to polystructure, um, I don't think a lot of men, particularly black men, have the mouthpiece or the wherewithal to discuss that with their partner.
Okay.
And a lot of times not having that or understanding how you fit can lead to feelings of uh you know being violated in the relationship, right?
Yeah.
And violated mean cheating with another partner, actually, at this point, right? Not any other space, but um, that can lead to non-consensual non-monogamy. That, and uh, and that still doesn't feel good. The thing where poly is beautiful, I think a lot of people that are in poly relationships is there is an understanding of consensual relationships, right? And the
Yeah.
definition of poly is being able to love more than one. That's not being able to sex as many women or men as possible. You can do that single. You can do that in a monogamous structure. But poly is the understanding that not only can I love you, babe, but I also have feelings for this other person, and I want us, all three of us, to be great together, and we can do it like this, or we can do it like that, right? And so, a lot of us men don't have the mouthpiece to discuss that, or even the confidence to mention that, but we want it, and so we feel like we didn't see it coming up from our parents, so it's not right. But it's absolutely in the Bible if you're Christian. It's absolutely outside of the Bible if you're non-Christian. And it has existed for a long time. And so you can learn how to talk about that here in these spaces with me. I highly recommend you going on Instagram, Facebook, and speaking to folks that are in the lifestyle. And you'll understand that typically the majority of folks in lifestyle have uh, a high understanding how to have a conversation about consent and relational structure and being able to love more than one person, which we all are able to do, whether we like to admit it or not. Uh, so, um, so that's consensual non-monogamy is poly,
Okay.
and consensual monogamy is just monogamous, a monogamous relationship, and that's just how that kind of works itself out. Um, And the definition again of poly is just being able to love more than one.
Okay. You touched on something important too, since we're talking about black men and sex, and how a lot of black men, they don't have, I guess, that awareness of how to even communicate that effectively as far as their desire to be poly. Because even with, in the black community, men who, do they, we have the history where they're called dogs, but they just are not really expressing their needs
Yeah,
appropriately with their partner.
yeah,
And so even when you talk about just with that in the Christian context, as far as how to navigate, being poly, and as a Christian man, or if you're in organized religion, or where you could still have a healthy
mm,
relationship, even in a marriage, some people are married in poly,
yep.
and
They
just
can have open marriages.
yeah. And so just for men, black men to be aware of, what's available, and making sure that, like I said, having consensual, even when you talked about the sexual contracts, and
Yeah,
making sure that you manage expectations by communicating that beforehand,
yeah.
um, and trying to navigate that.
I remember I told my parents that this is how I love best. I can love in monogamous spaces, but I love best this way. I don't necessarily have to have it all the time, but poly is who I am. And I remember my mom talking to me. She looked at me. She was like, boy, we already knew that. She was like, we saw how you were living and working and navigating women since middle school. We already knew
Wow.
that this boy loves a lot of women, and and that's
Okay.
just who he is. And and then it got to the point where I had to understand how I operate successfully, how am I going to work the best? How am I going to go to school the best? Am I going to get the best sleep? Typically, it's with two women. And
Okay.
so that typically ended up being, you know, where my limits were. And so, talking to men about how they operate in a healthy space, is it typically loving one woman or more than one, right? Do
Yes.
you find yourself getting fired all the time when you have three or four women? You probably need to cut that down, sir. That's probably not for you. You probably need to go to one, maybe two, right? Do you find yourself thriving when you have two women? Okay, then that's probably the space you want to operate in. Now let's talk about the structure. And so I remember having that discussion with my mother and father about that.
Okay.
And to me, that was kind of like a coming out of, my relational structure and how I like to love. And I felt like I was a bit nervous about it. But, my parents were very supportive and they kind of laughed at me like, this, you're good. So, um,
Wow.
and we went on from there. And so, I want people to really understand how they thrive and when they're just surviving, and look at, the people that are around you, the loved ones. If you find yourself dating multiple women, then that's probably for you, right? If you find yourself dating only one woman, but you're interested in other women, monogamy is probably for you. Monogamy doesn't mean you're not turned on by a lot of women.
Okay.
You absolutely can be turned on by a lot of women and absolutely want to have sex with a lot of women. But think about how you function,
Yeah.
right? Because we talked about structure, but early on I said in relationships it's about structure and functioning. So think about the structure, right? But also think about how you function. If you're functioning and you find yourself struggling trying to juggle all these people and it feels like work, give yourself a rest. Allow yourself to understand how you perform best, how you're able to give and receive the best way possible. And if it's with one woman, monogamy is for you. Congratulations. Now go enjoy life. But you
Yeah.
don't have to shut yourself down because you want to have sex with other women. That's just you being a human being. And typically human beings are aroused by a number of things,
Yeah.
right? Sexually and non-sexually, right? I'm aroused by making money. I love to make money, right? I'm aroused by having contact with human beings and having good conversation. But
Yeah.
that doesn't always mean that it's sex. And so you have to understand the difference when it comes to how you function. The emphasis is on structure and function. If you find yourself functioning in a healthy way and thriving, okay, look at that that sex history. What kind of relationship was I in when I was thriving? Who was I dating? Was I in a relationship with one woman or two women? Was I a player or was I actually monogamous? Whatever it was, that'll
Yeah.
help you understand how you function best. And now you can get the enjoyments and the spice of life moving and shaking. Why, move and shake trying to hurt somebody, right? You're not understanding who you are or that other person. You haven't done the self-assessment. You haven't done an understand. You haven't basically understood how you function within this great design we call life. So functioning is very important, and understanding how you thrive is one of the most important conversations you can have with yourself, so that you can choose what kind of relationship structure or love structure that you feel like you function best in.
I like that you mentioned thriving
Yeah.
and doing that self-reflection and being honest with yourself first and foremost to make sure that you're thriving and enjoying your life. And also, it's just rare when you said that you spoke to your parents about your relational structure as a black man, and the black mom and being able to tell her that that's something that's rare. A lot of men will have to go to a sex therapist in order to
Yeah.
be able to do what you're saying as far as the sex history and having that conversation.
Yeah.
So that's a blessing. You had parents who were able to you were able to share that with.
Yeah. And if somebody doesn't have parents, go to your friends, go to your uncles and your aunties, cousins.
Yeah.
Tell them about your success and failures in relationships. I just had a dinner with my auntie and cousins the other day. Talked about success and failure in relationships, and we laughed about it. It doesn't have to be so. It doesn't have to feel like you're going to work, but we laughed about it and we moved on. And so, enjoy those conversations. It doesn't have to always be so heavy. Enjoy it, put some fun in it, and make sure you understand how you function.
Great. And also, when you mentioned as far as how you function, and I think and just having an understanding when you and going back to those sexual contracts and making sure, even not just the man thriving, but the whole relationship thriving, where everybody involved is thriving, having that understanding. Because you say usually you prefer to have two women, but then Well, some black men, we go back to masculinity as well, because I've heard this question come up. They don't feel that the woman should do it. Have two men. Uh, so can you talk more about that? Where they feel like when you talk about poly, they think about the man doing having multiple partners, but then they have an issue with the woman having multiple partners.
I love seeing this question on Instagram, and I laugh
Yeah, there's a lot
hard
of
every
debate about
time
it.
because men are saying, oh, this guy likes to watch his woman have sex and he ain't a man with another woman. No. When it comes to my structure, it's basically called monogamish, and it was created by Dan Savage of the Savage Love Cast. Uh,
Oh,
he is, he is a white gay man.
yeah.
Um,
I've known
so
him
he's
for
the
years.
opposite of black, and
Yeah.
he's not straight like I am, right? But there is a lot to learn from other people.
Yeah.
And because they don't look or sound like you doesn't mean that whatever they have working can't work for you, right?
True.
So he coined the term monogamish, and basically it is you have your person and you can have a wild card, right? That wild card could look like I can go see my partner whenever I'm going out of town or whenever I want to go have a drink, and there may or may not be sex, right?
Yeah.
And so the sex from you may feel me, but the intimate conversations about all kinds of personal stuff I need to have with her from time to time that I can't necessarily have with you. And, I don't want you feeling like we're not good because I can't have that conversation with you. I don't want you feeling like you need to be my everything. That's a heavy
Yeah.
load to lift. And so there probably are some women out there that can be the everything for their men, or men can be the everything for their other partner, right?
Yeah.
But I don't require that from my partner or partners to be my everything. I want you to be the best you.
Yes.
That's me, and we work this out together. But back to your question. Um, yes, my partner she can go date if she wants to go date. Um, I typically don't want to see it. I don't want to, be sitting there having coffee, listening on their conversation. Oh, that was a funny joke dude told. Yeah, he's a funny dude. I see why you chose him. He's I don't want to know all that. I just want to make sure that you are um, well managed within your own systematic design. You're you're regulated, right? Mood wise, sex wise, all the things, and you come back to me. I come back to you, and we're adding value to our relationship.
Yes. Okay.
So I don't feel like, oh man, this woman is cheating on me. I got to break up with her ass now. Like I don't feel that way. When you go out and you have a date with somebody else, come back blessed. Come back ready to engage. Sometimes you may break up with dude, and then yes, that is a heavy load for us both to lift. And there's going to be some aftercare for that, right? And so probably not right then and there because I may not instantly be able to hold space right there. I may be working,
Yeah.
right? But I'm going to get back to us, and maybe we go on a trip. Maybe we go out on a date, maybe we just have some self-care time with each other and we soothe each other and we just let it all out. And so that probably is the most challenging part of it. But when does that not happen in a monogamous relationship? Your partner may get fired. She brings that energy back to your relationship. Now
Yeah.
y'all got to figure out financially how are we going to work this thing out. And so, you know, ups and downs are just going to be a part of relationship. Mood swings and shifts are going to be a part of relationship. And you have to be able to know how to hold space for your partner and to help get them through it while he or she helps you move through it. So no, that also goes back to an earlier thing we talked about is uh, systematically men are told to control.
Yeah.
I don't like to control anything my woman got going on. Uh, but there will be things where I take lead, right? And sometimes she's going to take lead, and that will depend on our strengths. So when relationships understand how to operate within a strengths-based perspective, we'll find that there's limited opportunities to blow up at each other or fight because of insecurities,
True.
because we're operating from our strengths. But today, we have so many of these. Oh hell no! She said she did this, she
Mhm.
did that with that man, and he ain't tell her what to do. Like I'm not gonna be sitting here telling my woman, what to do, uh, if she made a bad decision right then and there. We'll go back home. We'll have a conversation. Um, I remember talking to my partner the other day about other women I've dated in the past, and I told her about somebody in the past that I saw hitting on another dude. The dude was very attractive to her, right? And we were in a monogamous relationship.
Okay.
And so she was attracted to him, and I was pissed. Like, she's not honoring our rules. But
Okay.
it wasn't for me to jump in there and take control. I waited till we got back to the car. I'm like, man, what the hell was that? Like you over there talking to dude, and y'all exchange numbers. Like, so my options are this. I can either leave or we could talk it out. I don't understand what's going on. Like, what's going on, boo? And we
Okay.
just had the conversation. Now, you don't have to be perfect with the way you deliver that message, but you just can't deliver it without tact. You have to learn how to deliver a message with tact. And you can get through a lot of these fights, these misunderstandings, and they're just simply going to happen in relationships. As a therapist, or if you're the president of the United States, you're going to have issues in your relationships. And so you're going to have to learn how to communicate with tact. And when you lose that, you're starting to lose a grip on your relationship as well.
I like that. Also, a question that I think that's important too, even with poly or monogamous, as far as cheating. Is there such a thing as cheating in a poly relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. Because usually in most poly relationships with friends that I know have operated in them, studies I've done, and even in my own, there is a sorry, I don't know. I feel like I put some new carpet on the ground, and so the carpet has like it's
Out
fluffy
of-
and white. So sometimes hair, I mean not hair, but the little parts of it just starts flying.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, but you have to understand that there's going to be rules in that poly relationship. It's a consensual, non-monogamous relationship. So how are you gonna have a consensual anything if y'all didn't discuss the rules and roles of that relationship? And the rules and the roles of that relationship are the things that you have to lean in on, right? And so does that happen in a poly relationship where somebody does not honor the rules and roles of their relationship? 100% happens, not in all relationships, but in poly relationships, right? Poly relationships happen successfully all the time, but there are times when there's infidelity in their situations, right? Because they're not honoring the roles and rules of that functioning. And so, but guess what? That happens in monogamous relationships too. When you
Yeah.
don't honor the rules and roles of that, then there's infidelity. It happens in marriages. When you don't honor the rules and roles of that, then there is perceived extramarital affairs,
Yeah.
right? So you definitely have to discuss, as stated earlier, rules and roles of your connection and love structure with your partner. If you don't establish that early, then you're making it easy for infidelity or cheating of any sort and just hurt all around.
Okay. That's another thing too with a lot of black men. And I get it goes a lot of goes back to masculinity. But when a black man is cheated on and how it impacts him, a lot of these stereotypes and misconceptions think that a man can't get hurt
Yeah,
by that, but sometimes a black man can be hurt more than the woman can when he's betrayed. That's a form
yeah.
of betrayal.
Betrayal for sure.
Yeah.
You know, off the record, I feel like when women cheat on dudes, y'all go for the gusto. y'all, y'all don't just, y'all don't cheat back on the same level. Y'all swing for like a grand slam. Y'all don't even go for a home run. And so and that's me joking, but that does happen quite a bit. But yes, men typically uh, show that they can't handle being cheated on when women do it. Uh, now, Personally, I don't think that it's the cheating. I think it's how it's going to be looked at or perceived from the gaze of the outside looking in. I don't have control over my woman, and this is what she's doing. So I have to deal with my feelings, and now I have to deal with the gaze of the external, whomever else is judging me now. So, that rips us up. For women, it's kind of expected. Oh, dude, socially, dudes could just go and play and do whatever he wants to. So what if he's cheating? Now, unfortunately, that's a belief system that a lot of people have, unfortunately. And, it kind of leans in on the idea that women just need to just tolerate a man cheating. No, you don't need to do that. Um, but yes, going back to your answer, because again, I could be a chatterbratty. I don't believe men can handle uh, that, and that's just a weird. That's just weird, though, right? Just to be able to handle cheating, right? Nobody handles that well, but I see it being. I see women being more composed and not falling off their rocker when men do it, versus when men cheating and the woman has to deal with it. Men. When a woman cheats and the man has to deal with it, men do, we're not regulated after that. We fall off our rocker. We're just all over the place. And that's just typically, and I'll just say that from, of course, that's in heteronormal spaces, but that's how it appears to me.
Yeah. And one big word you mentioned is that word control. And I like how
Yeah,
you distinguish between control and lead, because then we go to another big word that's been a constant source of debate between black men and black women, is that word submission. So I like how you distinguish between having not having to be in control as a black man, but being understanding that you need to lead.
absolutely. It's two different books.
Yeah.
Right. Um, Leading can be unhealthy, right? But the way I spoke about it was in the healthy spaces. And control, when it comes to relationship, I don't know where there's healthy control at all. Like nobody wants to be a puppet. And when we're talking about submitting, the healthiest way to submit to any relationship is when you both do it,
Yes.
right? And when there is an understanding that we're submitting to love, if we're trying to get married or if we're in a relationship where we're trying to thrive, we're going to thrive. Now, if you're in a relationship when there's just sex, and somebody just wants to be, just tell me when you want it and how you want it, then yeah, that.
Yeah.
But you've been given consent to tell that person, call me this time. I want it like that. And that's not necessarily control. It's just the structure of your sexual design. So when we get into that, that's a whole nother conversation. But I do believe people have a misunderstanding of what healthy submission is and what healthy leading is. And
Yeah.
that's just tearing society up. It,
True.
I
Yes.
don't believe the woman needs to submit only. I don't believe that within my heart. I don't believe the man should not submit. If you're in a relationship, you both have to, or it's just the power design, the power dynamics is going to typify into the side of one person so much. Where's the fun? Where's the enjoyment? How can we thrive when one person is submitting and the other person is not? And you can submit and still lead and still be the man, right?
Yes.
But a man will know when his partner is not having a good day,
Yeah.
knows how to offer the love, the affection, so on and so forth. When you're giving that to her in heteronormal spaces, of course, right?
Yes.
Then you're submitting, whether you believe it or not. Even though that's giving out healthy energy, you're still submitting. You're submitting to a higher understanding of love. Why not do that? Unless you just want to waste somebody's time, why not do that?
I like that. That is so true. And I want to, as we wrap it up, I want to go back to when you mentioned Dan Savage and Savage Love. I started reading his column, like it's been over 30 years ago, when he was in the Village Voice newspaper.
Yeah,
I learned a lot. I mean, he's a fantastic writer and very informative. And even though he's a white male, I'm out. I mean, just as far as sex, the whole gamut of, just
Yes,
learning about different forms of sex, and I think we need more of that in the black community.
absolutely,
So even
absolutely.
just starting with you, because we need to learn more from you, and let us know how to follow you and keep in touch with you, and then also share other resources where the black men can learn more about sex and get more education.
Yeah, so you can follow me on my Facebook pages. I know I'm kind of dating myself. My family members that are younger, like, don't nobody do Facebook anymore, but I still do Facebook. It's Greg Dawson. Feel free to add me, and if you could message me, just say, "Hey, I was tuning in from the Black Men Healing podcast." Let me know. I'll accept you. Uh, there's also Boris Chestnut, which is my alias, and that is 100% my Tantra space.
Okay.
Uh, you can find that on Instagram, Boris underscore Chestnut. Yes, it's a funny name. I'm always trying to add fun in everything. But there's a time and place where I have to be serious too, and I do that as well. And so that's also my Facebook and Instagram, Boris Chestnut. I also have a book for men called Back to the Basics. And it is a book that will have things that I've learned as a sex therapist
Okay.
in there, things that I've learned as a Tantra practitioner in there, and things that will help men to preserve your energy and use it to lift your vibrational energy for better
Mm.
focus, for better sex, just overall a lot of other things, prosperity, so on and so forth. And then I have an animation you'll see on the page coming out in the distant future. If you don't like to read or see any of that other stuff to take in the message, the animation will have it. I also have an album where I compiled a number of favorite artists on it to talk about the book, and the messages will reflect the book. And
Okay.
again, the name of the book is called Back to the Basics: A Reclamation of Sex Energy for Men.
Oh, great. I'll put your links in the YouTube, and also with the podcast, and then the magazine as well, because they need to read that book.
Absolutely.
Add your links.
Support your boy. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. I don't know you had all that and had the book, so definitely share that.
Yeah. The book will be released. We're planning on releasing it in December, and also we're going to have. I'm going to have a launch and a virtual launch. For now, that's what we're planning.
Oh,
My my PR person is gonna whoop my ass for that because I wasn't supposed to say that. But y'all got a golden nugget, and so there will be pre-sales. Again, the pre-sales will include the album if you get it early. If you don't get the pre-sale book, you'll get the book as it's naturally sold on my book's website, and so that's all coming, but that hasn't been released yet.
okay. When you release it, we'll add that so the
Thank
man will
you.
have it. Also, because I know as far as your clinical work, the sex therapy clinical work, you're licensed in Florida and Texas, but for the tantra work, you don't have to be restricted to just Georgia and Texas. So how can they get more information about working with you with that work?
Whether I add you on any of my social media uh, spaces, just say, hey, I would like to engage more into Tantra, right? Because I can only do one or the other. Because my license is strict. I can only do
Yeah.
mental health or behavior health and sex therapy under my license. I can't do Tantra. And then there's just Tantra.
Okay.
So let me know what you're looking for. Um, if you're not in those two states, I can try to refer you to a practitioner that's close to you, or I can fly to you and we can do energy work, which would consist of meditations, qigongs, changing up your diets, juicing, a number of things that will allow you to assume and take in the natural medicines that will lift your vibrational energy. And if I only do energy work or table work on women,
On
uh,
women?
I only do that on women. So
Oh,
if you're a man wanting to learn how to do that for your partner or potential partners in the future, I can teach you that in that way. And you can be a client for me in that way. But if you're a man, I won't be doing table work on you. I only do it on women.
okay.
Uh, so women will be able to get the table work, and men will be able to be my clients as well. But learning how to uh, project and use energy work on their potential client, I mean partner, or if they want to have potential clients in the future, I can teach you that as well.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you for distinguishing that too, so they'll know how you can work with them. Okay, well,
Yeah,
thank you so
not a
much.
problem.
Like I said, now I add your links to the YouTube and as well as the podcast, and then your listing and everything, so they'll know the different ways they can work with you.
Thank you.
So now, and I appreciate you sharing so much valuable information. I mean, because they've learned a lot from you, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And whenever you're ready for, if you're ready for me to ever come back again, just hit me up. I'm here.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you, Greg. And I'll upload the podcast as well and send that to you. And I, like I said, and I'll let them know how they can reach out to you and stay connected to you as well. And we'll definitely have you back.
Thank you.
And again, this is Greg Dawson. He's a sex therapist and he also does tantra work. And thank you so much, Greg, for sharing and helping the Black men who are healing and for appearing on the Black Men Healing podcast.
Thank you so much. And you have a
Thank
beautiful day.
you too. Thank you. Okay,
Bye
bye
now.
bye.